Hey everybody, I'm Samir, and been at Zoho for quite some time. I lead a couple of the different customer-facing teams here at Zoho, working with solutions and also providing support. And in today's session, and diving a little bit deeper into some of the AI capabilities that we have within the platform, and a little bit later in the session, I'm going to bring up a colleague of mine, Ramki, who heads up our data science division for CRM and also the new Agent Studio platform. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into that as well. But as you all know, as we all know every single day, there seems to be some sort of new AI technology that's being broadcasted or released or previewed for you as a consumer or as a business owner to be able to utilize every single day, right? And it seems to be really, really exciting because there's all these creative new ways to be able to implement whatever type of AI technology that might be out there. So what we've seen, and this is from Forbes here, that the hype around AI, especially when it comes to businesses, is pretty real. There's been a steady increase in the amount of AI adoption ever since 2017, but obviously we saw a huge surge of that with 2023 and the advent of ChatGPTs and the Geminis of the world and everything else. And it's pretty clear that every single organization is going to benefit from it at one point or another. But the question that we need to really ask ourselves, instead of being excited and trying to jump into random tools and different things and exploring them, how can we really use it to help you run your business, your sales more effectively, and just be able to benefit your business overall? And one of the low-hanging fruits that we wanted to focus on as a CRM provider is really solving the issue of sales team burnout. I'm sure everybody in this audience has suffered through an influx of follow-ups that you need to do, whether it's new leads that are generated, keeping up with current customers or active opportunities that you're working on, and balancing the new lead flow with some of the existing things that you need to do every single day. And I'm sure some of you are business owners as well and salespeople at the same time, wearing way too many hats. So it ends up being a pretty daunting task and can lead to burnout. There may be instances where your sales team or yourself are spending a lot more time doing repetitive tasks, such as updating your CRM with manual data entry, or being able to keep tabs on some of the communication that you need to have with your customers. And it takes time away from actual selling, right? If we're having salespeople stuck in the system being able to update data, it actually takes time away from them being on calls, visiting customers, so on and so forth. And that might cause some salespeople to suffer from not being able to prioritize their things, trying to focus on the newest thing that has come up rather than focusing on the most important things. And that could lead to time management issues, for example, leading into missed opportunities, missed follow-ups, and so on. So that's what we really wanted to extract as the problem that we were trying to solve first with AI. And there are some pretty quick and easy productivity gains that come with resolving that specific problem with sales using AI. And what we're going to do is talk about a few of those quick and easy ways that you can adopt really, really fast and easily within your CRM system. What we're going to do is actually first break down the advent of AI into three distinct but very closely related categories that will make it a little bit easier for you to understand which features of our CRM system, which AI features fall into each and every one of those categories. And it'll start to make sense, and you'll be able to take it and run with it a little bit more. And that's sort of the goal for this session here. So if we think about the AI landscape, the first advent of AI within our CRM started with prescriptive AI. And what I mean by prescriptive AI is that this is machine learning and combined artificial intelligence to be able to analyze the data that's going on within your CRM system. So understanding how follow-ups are done, how leads are generated, what the conversion actually looks like, the behavior of your customers, the behavior of your users, all of those different things, and to be able to understand some of those patterns, and then provide insight into those for you as an admin, as an owner, as a salesperson, and even making some recommendations. So these were some of the first types of features that we rolled out inside the CRM. And then, obviously, more recently, we've seen a lot more traction around generative AI. And as you all know, probably you've used ChatGPT pretty often. It is a way to help you compose actual content, right? Whether that's helping you generate an email reply to a customer or being able to take specific action that allows you to be a little bit more productive, and you can spend less time focusing on some of those manual inputs and efforts. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about is agentic AI. And of course, we already saw a little bit of this in Raji's presentation, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper into how that works. And the key distinction between the two first AIs, prescriptive and generative, and agentic, is going to be autonomy and being able to make decisions on its own rather than having a user input it. And we'll kind of diagnose that a little bit more. So first off, we'll talk about prescriptive AI. And again, if you wanted to break prescriptive AI down into further detail, it really is two main things: analyzing and recommending. So from the analyze side, it understands that data over time. So again, your usage behavior of your users, of your customers, how opportunities are being tracked within the system, close rates, things like that, as well as communication. And once it starts to understand, it'll try to track some of the key metrics, like what your conversion statistics look like, what the touch point distribution is, maybe what's the best channel of communication that a lot of customers prefer to use, and then identifies those behaviors and patterns. Say, for example, you may have a series of salespeople that really prefer sending emails rather than getting on the phone and calling because that's more effective for them. Or you know that maybe a subset of your customers in a particular area or a particular industry prefer a certain way of communicating. It'll start to understand those behaviors and patterns using some categorical information. And the key thing about prescriptive AI that's most important is that with more data and more time equals more accuracy within your system. So the more information that it starts to learn on, the better it is at actually making recommendations. And what are those recommendations? These are things like actually extracting some of the insights of the data that it's reading into and being able to tell you what's going on, making sense of that data in natural language, right? So looking at a bunch of data, your reports, your sales reports, and being able to say, hey, this is a big contributing factor, or this is something that you need to look into. It can also be used to alert you as an admin, as an owner, as a salesperson, whenever something falls outside of the normal trend that it's predicting on, right? So if we have a pretty consistent amount of leads that come in and for whatever reason it falls short, then being able to let you know, hey, this is not typical and you might need to look into what's going on. It also can start to make predictions and anticipate what could happen within your system, such as it might predict the likeliness of a lead converting based on previous leads in the same sort of bucket and area or the way that they've behaved and communicated with you. And then finally, it allows you to receive recommendations from it. So it suggests better actions to take. So whether it's suggesting to communicate in a particular way, to reach out to them at a particular time, or maybe even recommending a series of products to cross-sell and upsell. So there's a lot of those examples that come in when it comes to prescriptive AI. So we'll talk about a few examples here. This is an easy, low-hanging fruit one that actually doesn't require very much configuration at all. So in your dashboards module of the CRM, you have a couple of pre-created dashboards, sales trend and sales follow-up trend dashboards. And what that actually does is it starts to understand the level of leads that are coming in, the amount of deals that are coming in, the amount of deals that are closing, as well as sales activity, touch points, and communication. So how many emails are being sent out by your team? How many meetings are being scheduled? How many tasks are being closed out? How many people are logging notes? And understanding the behavior of how much data is being entered into the system that falls into that category. And again, like I was saying, it starts to make a prediction over that time. So the blue line that you see here is actually the real live data of what's happening in the system, whereas the yellow line is the trend or the prediction of what's going on. And for whatever reason, if the actual value falls below that prediction by a large amount, it'll start to notify you saying, hey, you might need to look into why you haven't closed as many opportunities as you did the previous month or something like that. So it starts to give you that analysis. And again, these are pre-created dashboards that are in your system that you can start to take a look at. Another thing that we introduced a couple of years ago was intelligent scoring. So I'm sure some of you have configured scoring rules in your CRM account. And what that allows you to do is basically add points to your customers or your leads based on information that you've collected about them, but also if they've opened emails from you, if they've responded to you through a survey, maybe if they signed a document, those can increase their scores. But that's all rule-based, and you actually have to configure what those point values are. In this example, in this intelligence scoring, AI is actually doing that scoring for you. So based on what it understands about each and every lead that comes in, it starts to actually give a score value based on their touch point patterns and their behavior there, as well as other demographic, firmographic information that it collects about every single lead. And you're going to be able to see that. And it even shows you what's positively contributing to that score and what's detracting from it based on other leads that have already been converted. Another really, really good example that we introduced, I believe last year, is in the same light as scoring, predicting churn. So what this can do is looking at your existing accounts and customers, understanding the way that they communicate, and maybe if there is a shortfall of communication, they're not answering as many calls, we don't have as many notes with that particular account, it'll start to create a churn prediction score. So based on us not seeing a transaction from them in a certain amount of time or not seeing any communication from them, it'll start to increase that churn likeliness value. And what you could do with that is pretty neat. Once a churn score crosses a specific amount, so let's just say the churn score reaches above 80, you can actually create a workflow that says any account that reaches above an 80 point score for churn, let me know. And that way I can get on it and maybe talk to the salesperson that owns that account, and the system can just let me know that that's going on based on what it understands about some of the accounts that are likely to close or not. And another cool thing that we introduced pretty early on was recommended automations. So this is another example of looking at user behavior, right? So every single time one of your salespeople logged a new note, they create a follow-up task to remind themselves to reach out to that person in a couple of days, or maybe sending an email, updating some data within the system. All of those different points of entry for one of your salespeople to do things inside the CRM, it will try to understand the pattern and the behavior of your users and find ways to make that more productive. So let's just say that one of your salespeople is just calling a list of leads every single day and updating their status and then sending an email and creating a task. It'll say, hey, based on what we know, when this status is updated, we need to automatically send a particular email. We need to automatically create a task, and it'll suggest that workflow for you. Same thing with macros as well. So it understands how your users behave and then creates recommended automations that you can implement inside your system. And the last thing that I'll mention before we go a little bit more interactive is cross-sell opportunities. So if you end up using the CRM system to manage your products, and if you create quotes and invoices out of the system, it'll start to understand what products are most appealing to certain customers. So if it's a specific region, industry, other type of demographic, and certain products are popular amongst those, it'll start to understand, okay, this is another good product to suggest to this type of customer. Or, there's other patterns that it can sort of define, such as creating bundles or creating sequential recommendations. So people start with product number 1, they end up going into product number 2 and 3, 6 months down the line. It'll start to make those recommendations based on what it understands about transactions, invoices, what products are being sold as well. So that's another good opportunity for that. So with that in mind, I'm going to take a few minutes to cover a few more of these prescriptive AI features that are really, really easy and intuitive for you to use. So going into the CRM system here, I'm just looking at a lead right now. But what it's telling me is that it's got a pretty high score of 95 right now, which is pretty good. And I can actually, when I actually go back to my list of leads in the system, and if you have this feature turned on, one of the actual filters that you can use, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit, is the ZIA score. So if a salesperson would want to, based on that understanding, we can say, let's look at every single lead that's above a 90-point score, and let's just focus on those leads right now. And that way they can prioritize the hottest leads, the ones that are actually following up and are actually engaging with us pretty often, and use that as a way to be able to make modifications inside the system. So that's a really easy, low-hanging fruit way to be able to make use of that capability. So I'm going to go back to that record here, just a sec. And another thing that ends up happening is that the system starts to suggest the next best thing to do. What's the next best outreach to have with this particular person? So based on what it understands about usage behavior and everything, it'll tell you as a salesperson, hey, maybe you should make a call, maybe you should schedule a meeting, send an email, create a quote, those sort of things. It'll actually start to give those recommendations on what is the best next thing to do for that particular lead. So that's another good example there. And then other components of prescriptive that I'll get into really quickly. You may have seen this already, but one of the key details inside the CRM system is sentiment analysis. So actually reading the content of your emails and being able to see when people actually are speaking positively or negatively within an email or within a desk ticket, for example. And so it'll start to summarize those emails and actually let you know what type of email that it is, whether it's a complaint or if it's praise, for example, and they have positive sentiment. And you can look at that at an individual record level. But what's great about this here is that it combines all of the communication that you have across all of your customers and allows you to see what we call the voice of the customer, which is all of the communication, all the keywords that they're using, and how they're talking about a particular thing in your organization, right? Based on reading some of those emails and other types of communication. So I could see here that account disputes is a pretty negative comment, but American Express is pretty positive for whatever reason. So people are saying good things about certain keywords and bad things about others. And we can dive a little bit deeper into the overall sentiment of the entire organization. So it looks like for me, it's pretty bad. I got a bunch of negative sentiment and I have a bunch of neutral, but not that many positive. So something's going wrong, right, with my communication or the way that customers are being handled by my team. So it really gives us a good idea or a good depiction of the overall sentiment of all of your customers within the system. And what's actually cool is when we go into a particular contact, and I got Michael Scott here from Dunder Mifflin, we can actually see his specific sentiment across all of his communication. So how many times has he spoken positively or negatively? Doesn't really look like he's had a good experience with my company, unfortunately. So we're able to see that a little bit more deeper and get insight into how he's communicated with us and if there's things that we need to resolve. So this gives you some intuitive information, even on a record level, at an account level, at a contact level, to be able to move forward with that. So that's a little bit about the prescriptive AI side. I'm going to move over into now generative AI. So we all know this. Everybody's used ChatGPT or Gemini to be able to ask questions, be able to get answers to certain things, maybe generate content. That's all well and good. But if we really break that down a little bit further, it allows us to compose content. So analyzing, the requests that you might be making to the generative AI and what it understands about your system to be able to create suggested or specific recommendations. And then also allows you to be more productive. So in a lot of ways, a generative AI solution can actually help you update data within the CRM, maybe automating some of those manual efforts, and also make configurations within your system too. So those are, of course, a couple of things that it can do pretty easily. Another low-hanging fruit feature that we have within generative AI is data enrichment. So whenever you have a salesperson create a new lead or a new customer record, and as soon as we start to enter a company name or an email address, it'll start to crawl the web to find any information about that particular domain name or that company name and try to fill it in. And so you can map things like phone number, address information, and all these other things that could be found through the internet, and you can map those fields over. For the longest time, we only had that available for accounts or business information, but we've also implemented that for personal details. So it can grab people's LinkedIn profiles or Twitter profiles, for example. Another good thing that's available within the system is the ability to make summarizations. So there's a little button at the top of every account record or contact record that allows you to generate a summary. And that gives you a breakdown in a written format of everything that's been done about that account. So let's just say, for example, one of your salespeople ends up leaving and another salesperson takes over, and they need to get a good idea of all of the accounts and all the customers that they're taking on. Instead of having to run through a bunch of emails, a bunch of notes from the past, they can click that little summary button and they'll get a few paragraphs of all the information that's been available. So, and then one other cool thing that we've done is that we've integrated with telephony systems. And once we get a transcript from these calls, it'll actually start to give insight and highlights into what's going on over there. So far we've talked about prescriptive AI to help your team know what to focus on. So whether it's specific leads or customers, and also generative AI to help them communicate and act more quickly and efficiently. So, but the thing is, with both of these features, with prescriptive AI and generative AI, at the end of the day, you're still relying on each and every salesperson to take a specific action, whether it is still sending an email that they're composing, or updating the CRM system, or generating a report, for example, or scheduling a meeting. All of that is still done by a user. It's only making them a little bit more productive. But what if we could even automate those sort of decisions on what to do and actions that need to be taken? And that's where we really enter the world of agentic AI. So when we focus on this a little bit more, what agentic AI really means is that it understands the prescriptive AI that we sort of talked about, analyzing data, generating content, and adding a level of autonomy of being able to make decisions on its own. And that's where really agentic AI sort of comes into the picture. So the way that we break down an AI agent, it understands the instructions that you tell it to the first time, right? With generative AI, every single time you interact with ChatGPT, you have to give a prompt every single time you need something produced by it, right? With agentic AI, you only have to do that once. It's one quick setup, and then it's off to the races. So from there, it has access to tools and systems that give it context of what's going on inside your CRM database or your other business software systems that you might want to connect that agent to. And then after understanding and going through that prescriptive AI side, it starts to make decisions autonomously, right? Based on what it knows, the context that it's been given, the instructions that it's been given, it'll start to make decisions and take action on its own. So if we think about travel booking, for example, the current human way to do it is you got to figure out dates that work with your schedule. You got to find the right flights and hotels that you need to and book those online. And maybe you have some certain preferences like timings or a specific airline or purchasing luggage and things like that. All different things that you might need to do in every single situation. And of course, last minute changes will come up, such as flight delays or weather issues and things like that, where things need to be modified. And if we think about an AI travel agent, basically all you need to do is tell it where you want to go and what dates, and then it understands the context. It might know, for example, that you prefer a particular airline, you prefer like a window seat versus a middle seat, based on what it knows about your previous travel booking history, and actually finds the right flights and hotels based on the preferences that it already knows about you and does that decision-making on its own. And if for whatever reason, some sort of emergency comes up, weather related or whatever else, we're able to have the AI travel agent, for example, use their own judgment to be able to rebook flights, rebook hotels, and pretty much everything else. So that's where really the idea of agentic AI comes in, is that you're only telling it once, and then it's figuring out all the rest. So with that being said, let's dive a little bit deeper. I'm going to have my colleague Ramki come up on stage, and we're going to talk a little bit more about building those agents within your system and how you can sort of adopt that.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Samir, for the great demonstration on various AI features in CRM system and the quick introduction to the AI agents. Yes, by now, we have all heard experts and industry leaders from all over the world talking about AI agents and how they are changing the game, right? From the year 2020 to 2024 were really about LLMs. The continuous evolution of LLMs opened the doors for various agentic applications. It's very clear that 2025 is going to be the year of agents. And yes, Zoho is already on it. We are not just chasing the trend, but we are actually shaping it. Zia Agents is a new service from Zoho in the agentic AI front, where the user can choose agents from the wide range of agents that we offer in the agent marketplace, or they can create their own custom agents in the Agent Studio. So now let's talk about some of the use cases in the sales domain, along with some demonstration. The reason why people are more excited about agentic AI is these agents can be fully autonomous, or they can include human in the loop. I mean, these agents act as the assistants to the salespeople. The great example for fully autonomous agents is the SDR agent. As we all know, sales development representatives are the people who will find the new business for our new customers for our business. Their daily routines task be like they will reach out to multiple prospects. They will try to communicate with them, and at some point, if SDR feels the particular prospect is worth qualifying, they will mark them as a qualified, and they will try to schedule a meeting with the sales team. This is actually a time-consuming job because SDRs needs to contact lots and lots of people. They need to do multiple follow-ups, and their task is their work is more of repetitive then. So what if we introduce AI-powered SDR agent here? So let's see how AI SDR agent works in real time. With AI-powered SDR agent, we can completely automate the lead qualification process effortlessly. Now let's see how SDR agent works in real time. This is the CRM account where I already deployed my AI SDR agent. So whenever the new lead enters into my CRM system, our AI agent gets into the action and it will start the lead qualification process. For this demonstration, let's assume Harry Brook is our prospect, I mean lead. So this is his email box. So I'm going to create a lead with his email ID. Let's the company be Greenstones. I just created the lead. So when I created the lead, our AI SDR agent tried to understand, tried to gather information about that particular lead. It scraps the particular lead's website, or it searches through the internet, and it gathers all information about that prospect. And it tried to compose the personalized email and send it to the customer. Yes, we received the agent's personalized email. Once our lead responds to this email by saying something like, so now the prospect replied to the mail, whatever the agent sends. Now our AI agent understands this and it will try to schedule a meeting. Sometime our prospect may ask any other questions or queries. For that, our agent automatically carry over the conversation. And at some point, if our agent identifies this particular prospect is worth qualifying, it automatically marks this lead as qualified, and it will check the calendar both the side, and it will schedule a meeting for him. So now let's see how it worked. So it will take few seconds to mail to sync in the CRM system. Meanwhile, let me show the another record which our AI agents completely done the lead qualification process. Yes, this is the a record where our AI agents worked and qualified the lead. This is the personalized email that our agent sends. And this is the reply mail from the customer. He is asking for the meeting. And he's actually asking the meeting, right? So it schedules the meeting and sends the confirmation to the prospect. So in this way, we can completely automate the entire lead qualification process effortlessly without a human intervention. Yes, the lead that we worked right some time back, for that, it automatically schedules the meeting and sends the confirmation. Even you can check it here. Yes, it created the meeting and sent the confirmation as well. Now let's imagine the kind of productivity increase the sales team feels when SDR agent in the place. As I mentioned earlier, most of the sales reps spend a lot of time on doing repetitive tasks. So by having a SDR agent, it automate most of their repetitive tasks so that your sales rep can focus more on other human-based work. I mean, they can engage on more on building relationship, and they involve in deeper conversation, and they can work for closing more deals. Apart from all these things, our AI agents work around the clock. They don't take breaks. They don't forget to reply. In this level of consistency, we can ensure no opportunity falls through the cracks. Fine. This is about the autonomous agents. We do have agents that can include human in the loop. For example, some XYZ company trying to say something like, hey, you are really a good seller. you do have a real human communication with your buyer. Instead of disintermediate that with placing some autonomous agents, I am going to give you some agents that is going to help you in your sales process. I mean, they will help the sales rep to prepare for the meeting, or once after the meeting, it automatically gives the complete feedback about the meeting. Even it actually drops the reply mail to the customer. Even though it has the ability to auto send, we can took that out and we can always include human in the loop. Now let me demonstrate one of the agent in this category, that is agent helping the sales representative. The agent that I am going to show you here is called sales coach agent. The main goal of this agent is to help the sales representative, mainly the new sales representative, while onboarding during the training process. So this sales coach agents provide the personalized training and coaching to the newly joined sales representatives. Now I have created a simple widget in the CRM homepage, and I integrated my sales coach agents here. So this particular demo account deals with the company which sells the electronic products. So when the new sales rep join the team, he can interact with the sales coach agent and they can sharpen their knowledge. So we designed our agent such a way that initially it asks for the difficulty level and a number of questions to be asked. So maybe the sales rep might choose the easy option as a difficulty level and 3 as a number of questions. So now our agent will ask 3 easy level questions. The first question it asked was, what is the primary competitive advantages of ABC Electronics? For this demonstration, I'm putting some simple answer, like it's quality. The second question it asked is, describe the target market for our home appliances. The third question it actually gave you some scenario in that how the sales rep should react. How would you explain the benefit of Smart X to a customer who is concerned about its price? For this question, I'm going to intentionally give some inappropriate answer. Yes, you have to pay the bill, pay the amount. So once after this, our sales coach agent completely analyzes the reply and it will give you the detailed feedback. I mean, for the first question, it gave me 4 out of 10 and it gave me the feedback and ideal answer. For the second question, it gave me 3 out of 10. For a third question, since I made an inappropriate answer, it just gave me 2. After that, it gave me the overall score and it highlighted the strength and areas to improve along with the coach note. So this is one example of agents that helps the sales rep. And now you all have a question of how we create a new agent, how to get the agents from agent marketplace, or how to integrate agents into my CRM system, right? So for this, the answer is ZIA agents. ZIA agents is the place where you can get all these things. Once you visit agents.zoho.com, you will get landed into the agents page where you get to see the agents that you have created. And in the settings, you have a marketplace where you could see the pre-built agents that we offer. Agent Studio is the place where you can create your own agent. So now I'm not going to talk about the details about how to create agent and how to deploy the agent into the respective service. We do have a dedicated session tomorrow, 4 o'clock, in the AI track, specifically for agentic AI. So you can join there to experiment the complete about the agentic AI. And you do visit the AI booth in the Expo Center for more details. Yes, that's it from my end.
I know we didn't really go into complete detail about the platform just when we were strapped for time, but just a couple of key closing points here. There is a lot of AI functionality within the CRM system that you can check out really easily and efficiently right now. And then, of course, combining prescriptive and generative with agentic AI is really the next place where we can go. So thank you.